So Cristina, good afternoon and good morning and
Hi, Ash.
good morning, good afternoon and good evening. I did that in the wrong way. Nice to see you, Cristina. Just so everyone else knows, where are you calling from today?
I'm in Austin.
From Austin, Texas. Welcome. We are here for the Elevator Pitch Showdown, and we have a beautiful opportunity to listen to your pitch today. As always, we'll hear your elevator pitch. We will get feedback from the crowd, and let's do our best to provide that element. We'll talk about your pitch. We'll talk about your startup in general. And if you would like, I'm happy to embarrass myself and pitch your idea back with little or no preparation. All right. So Cristina, are you ready for your pitch?
As I'll ever be, I guess.
All right, let's do it. Yeah. You never know when you're gonna walk into an elevator, and we go from there. Okay.
All right.
All right. All right. My name is Ash Singh. I just moved to Austin, Texas, because I'm tired of paying all the big taxes in California. I'm a successful venture capital investor. Cristina, tell me about what you're working on. I heard you're working on something very interesting. Tell me more. Go ahead.
Well, good morning, Ash. How are you today?
Very well.
Again, my name is Cristina, and the virtual training lab gives access to hospitality internships by pioneering high-quality, personalized training that is cost-effective by leveraging VR and AR technology, along with a machine learning AI tool. Hospitality includes 4 verticals: hotels, restaurants, cruise lines, and airlines, and is powered by 300 million workers worldwide. We offer a new economy approach through a unique integrated platform that has a menu of in-person internships, virtual internships, and customized training for companies. We are completely dynamic in how we can match the right intern with the right company. We have 3 different revenue streams: fees from our face-to-face program, subscriptions from our virtual program, and hospitality companies looking to optimize their employee training. We are starting in the Philippines because it is a natural fit. The founders are Filipino, and the local talent is culturally adaptive and English speaking. 14 out of 100 Filipinos work in the hospitality sector. Currently, we count 27 of the top universities amongst our current partners and have generated about $500,000 in revenue. The Philippines is our power play, but our model can be replicated into other countries as we grow. This gives us a limitless pool of talent to pull from in order to fill the chasm of available jobs in the hospitality industry, while giving people a living wage and a way to support their families. We are asking for $1.5 million to develop the platform, the tech, and for marketing and operational costs. Thank you for your time.
Excellent. Cristina, thank you very much. All right, let's hear from the audience feedback on the virtual training lab. That's the product name, right, Cristina? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, because you have your kind of holding company as well, but the virtual training lab. Okay, and so it's for me. I enjoy, first of all, thank you. It's obvious that you've practiced and you've put thought into your pitch, right? So I felt it was very well articulated. Where my mind was, Cristina, and again, it's just every investor looks at things a little bit differently, right? Where my mind was, there was something that you said that really sparked my interest, but you didn't speak a lot about it afterwards, and I wish you did. Okay. You said something, you started off on like virtual training lab, AR, VR, machine learning, just to kind of help the process. You talk about hotels, restaurants, flight and cruise industry, right? Okay, big market. Okay. And then you talked about this concept of a virtual internship, and then you didn't come back to it at all. Okay. And I'll tell you where my mind was. We all know that in Southeast Asia, for instance, there's a great resource of English-speaking talent that can fill the roles, right? That's one component. But I wanted to know more about the technology and the platform, right? The problem that you're solving. And for me, it's like, in the hospitality space, how many hires are bad hires? How much does it cost to have a bad hire? And how do you leverage your platform to be able to train, level up in a safe environment, right? So the idea of a virtual internship is beautiful because you can go train, let's talk about the Philippines. You could train like 100 Filipinos in the Philippines in the comfort of their own homes and do it in a virtual manner to suss and get a sense of them before you fly them out to the, your airport or your cruise or your hotel and all of that stuff. And I feel like what your value to me is that when people want to hire somebody, it's about finding the right person that's going to do the job well and they're going to stay on with me, right? The headache of hiring is it the right person and are they going to stick around? If that, that's, correct me if I'm wrong, especially
absolutely
in hospitality. And I wanted that to come. You get what I'm saying? So let's talk about that, Cristina.
Okay.
Let's talk about how leveraging your platform, I'm a restaurateur. Let's use restaurants because everyone understands restaurants, right? Not everyone understands cruise or flights. Let's talk about a typical restaurant in Singapore, okay? They're looking, they need to find more waiters. How do they leverage your platform and how is it going to be easier for them to assess, interview, train using your virtual internship platform? And how does it improve their outcomes? Cristina, go ahead.
Okay, so there's a few ways. One way, of course, is getting face-to-face interns from us that we pre-screen, and of course, match them with our AI tools. Okay. Now, the other part is that they can also get them through virtual internships. So not every position, right, in the hospitality industry needs to be face-to-face. So we do have a pool of applicants from our virtual internships that would be available for them, doing accounting, HR work, admin work, a lot of the things, marketing work that can be done not in person. So we can also do that. A lot of those people trained through us. So we know them very well and their strengths and weaknesses. So we can really match pretty well in terms of those positions. So for all of these different positions across the different verticals, we can really match interns through this segment. And as interns, then they can see them for, let's say, 3 to 6 months, even a year in some cases, where we have students coming into the US for a year. Companies have an ability to sort of see how they work in different positions if necessary, and then make a decision after that, an informed decision whether they want this person to be in their company for the longer term.
Okay. Now, how do you, and I don't know if anyone's ever been able to solve this, because I understand how you are going to leverage your platform to assess people better. When we have software development, we have these things called challenges, right? So everyone applies to this job and we say, hey, please code this. It's a simple challenge, but that helps us weed people out, right? So when we're looking for good coders, this is kind of what you do. And in your virtual training environment, you would probably recreate scenarios, right? Where, dealing with a bad restaurant customer, you know what I mean? And they're saying this, what do you do? And, you can create these scenarios to test people. So I understand that. Is there any way that you have thought about retention, right? Because there's hiring good people, and what we find is especially in the restaurant industry, the retention rate is like less than 6 months now.
Absolutely.
So how do you address that?
So the turnover rates in the hospitality industry is actually one of the reasons why we created this platform, right? There's an over 300% turnover rate. It's the highest of any industry. It's incredible.
Yes.
And it drives every manager absolutely bonkers. But we believe a lot of that stems from maybe the ability to train people appropriately. So people get frustrated in their positions because they don't always know what to do. And this can happen for a variety of reasons. If you're so busy, then maybe you cut corners and don't train completely and as much as you should. Maybe because it is busy, then we're not doing the upskilling and the retraining constantly. And therefore, we're looking to partner as well with these host companies to also do their training programs so that we can help them extend that retention and make sure that people are happy and trained appropriately for their jobs, as well as getting them ready for the next step in their careers.
Yeah, got it. So the idea is that you train people well. So when the person, and this might sound very basic and primary, but just so I can understand, if you train, your hypothesis that you've proven is the fact that if you train people well, not only are they going to be better hires, so they're going to start the job and the employer is going to be happy, but because they're trained well, they're probably going to stick around longer because they're getting the job satisfaction, correct?
Correct.
Because they're finding value in the work that they're doing. It's more meaningful, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And so I totally understand all this now, but leveraging your AR and VR on this virtual training perspective, how much more efficient is it? How much cheaper, faster is it for an employer? I have a chain of 10 restaurants in Singapore, and I want to leverage your platform. I want to know how much cheaper it is to leverage your platform than for me to personally hire people and train people. Tell me about that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So this question actually has two sides to it.
Yes.
So for the trainees and those interested in joining the industry but looking for more training, just to give you an idea, a face-to-face international internship just for the program alone can cost anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 without airfare or housing yet, right? Okay. So it's quite costly. And for somewhere in the Philippines, that amount equals to maybe 1 year's worth of salary to some of those families.
Sure.
So it's a big burden. For our VR training program, which we give them that same international training virtually, we charge anywhere from $30 to $150. And that's for a 2-week to a 4-month course. And the reason that we can condense it to as much as like 2 weeks for specific issues or specific topics and 4 months for an in-depth sort of look into front of the house F&B culinary is because, of course, we're spending one-on-one time and VR training with these people.
Yes.
So for them, the cost is definitely much lower. And at the end of that, then they're ready to go abroad.
Got it.
And perhaps be taken in by someone from Singapore. Now, sure. On the flip side of this, for restaurants looking for interns or I guess people joining also their workforce, there actually is very minimum cost to take on an intern, right? We're only charging sort of like a subscription rate for that.
Sure.
And so it's a minimal cost, maybe it's usually about $100 a month to stay on the program and to keep interns. And then per intern that you take in, it's a small sort of processing fee of $25. So that part is quite small and definitely doable for a restaurant. And we're doing that because a lot of, standalone restaurants have a hard time with this and they can't really add much more cost.
Yeah.
So that's one way. Now, when they take in the intern as a full-time employee, then we do take a small fee for that, equivalent to like a 1 year, based on their 1 year salary.
Got it.
So
the typical
usually
like 1 month of the 1 year salary.
About 1 month. We've done up to 2 weeks actually, just to keep it sort of affordable.
But
Yeah.
also, we do make guarantees in terms of, well, if this still doesn't work out, even after, the point where they were there for an internship, then we will make sure to look for a replacement for you.
Got it. Now, as you're speaking, Cristina, one, I think about this on a couple of levels. So first off, as you were talking, my mind was around the fact that this can drive a little bit of income equality, right? There's a lot of income inequality right now. We read about this for those of you that, having lived in Singapore, for instance, right? We do have a situation at times where employers will take advantage of foreign talent that's coming in, right? Whether it's holding back wages or suppressing wages and stuff like that. And it breaks your heart, right? You have these people that have a lot and they're still, so I feel like what's really interesting for me, and maybe not something that needs to necessarily be pushed into the pitch, but it's this idea of income equality, right? The idea, if the person is spending $3,000 to $5,000 for training, and suddenly that turns into maybe $1,000, right? 1/5 or 1/10 the price. There could be some sort of element of transferring some of the savings onto the person, so their life is a little bit easier, right? Because we see, for instance, when people from the Filipino community and around Indonesia, when they come to Singapore, basically they're working for free for the first month, or for the first year, because they have to pay off all these other people, right? But they're the people that need the most money. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like, I feel like there needs to be this equilibrium, because this idea of job satisfaction is important. Productivity is important. And I feel like what you're building, Cristina, what's really interesting for me personally is this idea of fairness in the ecosystem, right? This idea of building your model right and making it work. But the other thing that was going through my mind, Cristina, as you're building this, right, is where does this platform go, right? And again, that's when we think about investment, where things are moving, where are the elements. Where I think about this is that you have this training platform for $30 to $150, right, for people to learn and train up. And you're using VR, you're using challenges and training techniques, experiential environments where people can test their elements out. And what I see is that you could actually become that super training school, right? For, that Filipino that wants to become like, a flight attendant and or a cruise attendant and a restaurant attendant and they could be like, do you know what I mean? And you could do that, correct? You could create like a super, like a super, super trained person that can go across the board. And because your cost base is so low, they can actually be trained much better. Is that correct, Cristina?
That's definitely the vision. Creating a platform that is so complete that you can get all these different skills within the hospitality industry and master them virtually, so that you're prepared for whichever avenue you wish to take. And like you said, a lot of this is based on the sheer cost it takes to get trained, right? Culinary training is actually expensive. Going to culinary school is quite expensive.
Sure.
Or being able to reach for international level training is out of reach for a lot of people, because they just went into debt to try to go to school. And now to get internship training is even more money, right? So this real idea of democratizing the access and leveling the playing field is what has driven us all this time. We really kind of saw this during COVID a lot, that, hey, we don't always need to send people abroad. There are actually a lot of benefits to going virtual versus face-to-face. I saw this as one of the questions actually in the chat.
Yes.
And a lot of what we've seen is that there's things you can't do in a face-to-face internship. For example, you would never have an intern play around with a hotel management system. That's just not going to happen for an intern. However, in our programs, we were able to have them build it and actually see how the back end works in terms of what programs to create, what packages, how to determine pricing based on different websites. And so starting to show them very early on what really drives the business and not just getting stuck in grunt work.
Sure.
I think the power of that has really sort of been amazing to see the difference in the quality of the output of these interns versus maybe they're 1 year abroad, yes, but daily they're not doing the in-depth work that we're able to push to them. Another thing that we've seen as one of the big differentiators is that we can also show them what can happen if we do something that, you know, we keep being told, hey, don't do that, that's wrong, you'll get hurt, it can cause accidents. Well, in the virtual world, we can actually go through that whole simulation, right?
Yeah.
You know, drop some acid on the floor, see what happens to that. Walk somewhere without looking first and slip, you know, and what happens and what do we do about it? So those are really powerful opportunities that we've seen, and we're really excited about that as well.
I think that again touches on the heartstrings, because you know, workplace safety is a real issue. Do you know what I mean? And we don't think about that, but sadly, you know, having you know, we own the professional basketball team in Singapore. So on Sundays when we have games, we have a lot of the Filipino community coming in, and I've had lots of conversations with them over the years. And what's really sad to me is a lot of them are working in pain because they made that mistake. You know what I mean? Something happened while they were working, and for whatever reason, right? Insurance is one thing, but you know, pain is still pain, right? So I feel like there's like an added bonus to this, just so people can fully understand and grab a sense on it, right? I also feel like the other thing to think about, right? And Cristina, you might not have this data, is that when you teach somebody from a book versus a video versus in person versus virtually with scenarios and simulations, how much more information is retained, Cristina? Does that make sense? You know?
Absolutely. I think that especially with the current generation, right, and all of the information that we're used to, so the retention of an immersive type of gamified content is really that much higher. Again, it's super hard to calculate, but I think we all can see that it would be much higher.
Yeah, because that retention element I think is important, you know, and again, it's how you package all these components, because then it just elevates your elevator pitch that much more, right? You're solving problems worth solving. All of these things make logical sense, right? And ultimately there's an element to be played. So Cristina, would you like me to pitch your idea back to you? May I?
Yes, please.
Is that all right? So what we're going to do, we're going to simulate. You get to introduce yourself, and I'm going to talk about the virtual training lab. Okay. So over to you. Go ahead.
Hello, I am Cristina, and I am looking for solutions for training for my hotel chain. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing?
It's so fantastic that we're able to meet you here. My name is Singh, and I'm part of the virtual training lab team. As you know, hiring, training workers for your hotel has been a huge challenge over the pandemic. Most of your employees might be overseas, for instance, from the Philippines, and we have now recognized that training, you know, it costs anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000, and the total cost of training somebody could be as high as $20,000. But today we're finding that people are not sticking around, and they're not motivated and trained effectively. And so over COVID, we discovered something quite beautiful, and that is the idea of leveraging technology, virtual reality, augmented reality where you have a bit of the real world and the virtual world together to help elevate and drive education results and help train staff in their own home. And so the idea we have today is leveraging our tools to be able to train, test, hire virtually while people are in their own homes in the Philippines. And from there, we bring the best talent to you. And what that allows us to do is allows you to find people much faster, right? For people that are, if you're looking for staff, it's also going to improve your retention rates. They're going to be more happier and they're going to be better trained, right? And all of this will probably drive at least a 50% improvement across your hiring and training workflow. I'd love to chat to you more about how we're making this work. We've built this up. We're also looking for $1.5 million investment to make this happen. But we believe that we are going to be the future in hiring, training, and retaining hospitality talent around the world. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you very much.
Okay. So that was my pitch. I tried to bake in all of these elements. Cristina, I didn't go into the how, right? The challenges. I could have done another pitch on that. I actually did kind of two pitches together right now because it was a little bit longer. But I wanted the other one around the how, right? Virtual reality challenges or experiences and how we make sure they are great. There's an element around that you could talk to. And this person was a hotel owner. So I could have dug deep on that to kind of make it work. But, all these elements, the cost benefit analysis. And Cristina, I feel like what you're building is just something that the world should be doing now. In 2022, people shouldn't. And again, the reason for it is because it's more efficient. But what I want to kind of do is just personally for me, the cost burden for all this stuff, that $5,000 or the $20,000, sadly, it's always given to the person that's going to be hired. Okay. And so what happens is for a year or 2 years, these people never earn anything, right? And they need the money, right? They're usually the breadwinner of their family. So I love what you're doing from a technology perspective, but personally, I love it more because I want to make sure that if you have to leave, for instance, leave the Philippines as a mother, right? And leave your family behind to go work, every dollar that you earn should go back to your family on day one, ideally. Okay. Right. And so I feel like the social good that you're going to do to make this work is very, very powerful. Right. And so, Cristina, raise money from VCs, but also raise money from impact investors. Right. Be in a position where if that Filipino mother is leaving her family, she doesn't have to go for 3 years. She goes for 1 year, makes her money, comes back home, raises her kids, raises her family, and all that stuff. And I think that's beautiful, Cristina, right? And so I know I'm being a little bit sentimental on this, right? And I know that this is, startup and investment and all this stuff, but it's also important for us to have a heart as well, right? Because that's what really makes the world go round, and moms make the world go round as well, right? So we need more. We need more moms, right? You know what I mean? I look at my own kids and I'm like, where would my kids be without my wife? No, not very far. But that's a different conversation. Cristina, hopefully you found value today in terms of the elements that we discussed, right? And all of the other elements. I want to thank the crowd for joining us today. There was some interesting elements, conversation points today. I want to thank you guys for joining. All of the startups that came together today. Hopefully this was a powerful session. Again, all of these inputs, Cristina, right? Just being able to listen to the crowd, stuff that's going through my mind and my elevator pitch back. If there's one or two things that helped you through the journey, then that's a positive inflection that we want to see happen. So I want to thank you again and thank everyone again. Thank the production team, Menchie, Christine, Simran, and the rest of the gang that have helped make this a success.